Good morning, everyone. It's about 8:24, so there's still 6 minutes to go until we really get started. But welcome everybody. Good to see you guys. And yeah, just hang in there. I'll be right with you. I'm gonna grab a little beverage. Okay, I hope you guys had a good weekend and hope everything's going well so far with your other classes and everything. So now we're into week 2. Hey there, Monica. Good morning. Nice to see you. Excuse me. Good morning, everybody. Hey, hi, Gabriel, AJ, Yelka, Delilah. Hope you guys rested well. Had a good Monday yesterday. Hey, Rohan, Kayla, Gabriel. Good to see everybody. AJ, did you want us to send you the screenshot of the survey completion already, or do you want both at the end of the semester? Yeah, AJ, do send me the screenshot that you completed the week 1 survey, and I'm just going to record in both weeks that you did them individually. So don't wait till the end. I'll still accept your credit, but just go ahead and get it in when you can, if you haven't already, and send me that screenshot. It just take about 10 or 15 minutes. But yeah, that'd be great. Hi, Sky. Nicole. Okay, no problem, AJ. Hey there, Dan. Okay, guys, we still got about 3 minutes, so we're just hanging in there until it's 8:30. Morning, Natalie. Hi, Leslie. Hey there, Kim, Violetta, Veronica. Always nice to see the crew. Okay, just a couple minutes here. Hey, John, good to see you. Okay, 1 minute to go. Morning, Jesse. Hi, Roxana. Hey, Grace. Hi, Nicole. Good to see everybody showing up here. Hey there, Ryan. Morning. Hello, Ryan Chan. Hey, Alyssa. Hi, Ghazi. Hope you guys are having a good morning. My weekend, it was a solid weekend. I don't know. I didn't do a lot. I got in some good workouts. I did a pretty fast 7-mile run. It was 46 minutes. Met with a friend to do that one run, but since it's all outside and we can be distanced, it's not like a dangerous thing. Yeah, so had a pretty solid weekend, but got some good rest. Anyways, guys, welcome back, everybody. As you know, it's 8:30, so I'm going to get us started. Good morning. We're going to get our day started with some good critical thinking. First thing I guess I'll do, and I'll just try to make a habit of this if I can remember it, is to ask anybody that didn't yet say hello or good morning or something in the chat to simply announce that you're present by typing anything in if you'd like, whether it's hi, hello, good morning, or just I'm here. And just as I would like to remind you, if you have a screen name that's different from your name in the class roster, then just make a note of the full name or whatever the real name is in your greetings, so that if I ever wanted to verify attendance for any reason, I could make sure that I knew who you were. Okay, guys, so welcome back. What I'd like to do to start off today's meeting is to just kind of first off summarize and go over some review of the material from last week on Thursday, and then we're just going to kind of continue from there and develop some more notes on the concept of logic, argument. And today the main focus is going to be what's the difference between deductive arguments and inductive arguments. So we're going to learn all that terminology and get quite clear on it in this meeting today. So let me just start back at the beginning from last time, and I'll ask you guys in the chat to contribute what you know if I mention some key concepts. So first of all, we opened this class with the discussion of what it even is to be a good critical thinker. So maybe someone can tell me, according to your memory or your notes or both, or some combination of them, what do you think is a good critical thinker? What type of person is that? What is the overall description of a person that we would call a good critical thinker? Let's see who can help fill me in on that, and then we'll just jump off from there. So we're just kind of getting into it nice and slow, and we want to review some of these topics from last time first so that we're all caught up over the weekend. So what is a good critical thinker? Okay, Cam, someone who takes facts and evidence into consideration. Yes, true. It's even a little more strict than that, though. Not only do they take it into consideration, but it's the sort of thing where if you're a good critical thinker, you would not even believe something. You would not be willing to believe something unless it is based on good evidence or good arguments. So very good. That's a nice additional statement there, Roxanne. It's someone that does not just believe what they're told, they need evidence. Correct. Gabriel, what do you say? A person who will not believe a claim unless there's evidence. Also, yes. Ashley, a person that does not believe a claim unless it's based on good evidence or good argument. Correct. Someone who does not believe anything that they hear and want to make sure it's based on good evidence. Okay, so I think we all seem to have the kind of correct idea here. A critical thinker, a good critical thinker, won't believe information, won't accept it as true unless it's based on good reasons, good evidence, or a good argument. And there's also this other part of it. Christopher, you add, having evidence and reliable sources to support their claim. Okay, good. Now that's what I also wanted to mention. The second part of being a good critical thinker is that when you're the one who presents a claim to someone else, when you're the one who's stating the claim, you make sure to always provide good reasons and evidence to back your claims up. So good critical thinkers do both. When they hear information, they say, wait, is that true? What's the proof? What's the reasons? I need to know that. Otherwise, I don't think I can accept it. And a good critical thinker, when they make claims to others, they don't just say, whatever, that's what I think, that's a hunch, I can't really tell you why I feel that way. They do give you detailed reasons and arguments to defend their claims. Okay, so on the other side, bad critical thinkers, good morning, Isabel. Bad critical thinkers are those that it's just the opposite. So what do you think is a bad critical thinker? It's a person who will believe claims that are not based on good evidence or good arguments. So they just believe things just because, not necessarily because there's any good evidence behind it, but sometimes because they hope that it's true, maybe because they think it sounds interesting. But a bad critical thinker, again, they don't have high standards for what they're going to believe. They just believe things without good evidence or reasons. And also, bad critical thinkers will make claims to other people, but they don't present the reasons behind the claims, or they don't have the ability to defend the claim with an argument. So, as I would say again, we're trying to basically become these good critical thinkers, the sort of people that are picky and choosy about what we believe. We will believe things, but there has to be the right kind of good evidence and argument behind it. And we want to be the kind of reasons when we're the one making the claim. Okay, now from there, I think what we talked about afterward was what is an argument? Because the word argument keeps popping up in these discussions of what is a good or a bad critical thinker. Good critical thinkers are good at presenting arguments and evaluating the quality of an argument. And a bad critical thinker, to the contrary, doesn't even require good arguments before they believe things, and they don't have the capacity to present them. So that means that we wanted to make sure we were all clear on what the definition of an argument is in the sort of formal, technical sense of logic. So maybe someone can help me remember that. What is an argument exactly? I know that it's a set of things, but maybe you can tell me what those things are and give me the precise statement. So what is an argument? Let's see, I'm just gonna, whenever I do ask these kind of questions for student response, it takes a little while. There's a little slight lag between when the comment is typed and then I see it. So anyways, though, Ghazi, it's two or more sentences with one being a claim and then the others being the premises. Okay, very close, and that's pretty much accurate. But Alyssa, you offer it this way: two or more sentences when one is the conclusion and the rest are premises. Very good. Okay, exactly. Same here, Tiandra. A set of two or more sentences, one is the conclusion. Well, you didn't state the rest of the part right there quite, Tiandra, because it's one is the conclusion and all the other sentences are the premises, right? So there's one conclusion and at least one premise, but there could be more than one premise. Christopher, a set of two or more sentences where one of the sentences is the conclusion and all the others are premises. Okay, exactly. So now let's go into that even further. What is the conclusion? And the only thing I would have said to modify your definition a little bit, Ghazi, was you use the word claim. It's true a conclusion is the claim, but the terminology, when you write the definition, should just mention that term, conclusion. But either way, what is a conclusion in general? The conclusion of the argument is the sentence, it's the statement that you're trying to what? And someone will tell me that. What's the concept of a conclusion of an argument? What is that? The claim that you are trying to prove to be true. Yes, exactly. It's the claim, the statement that you're trying to prove to be true. You're trying to make a case for this claim. And like if I wanted to make the case that, I don't know, Cal State Fullerton is a better school than Cal State Long Beach, for example. Say that's my conclusion. Well, I would have to state premises in order to reach that conclusion. So what are premises now? Let's get that one out on the table. What are the premises? The conclusion, correct. That's what you're trying to prove to be true. And the premises, what is their role? What role does the premises serve? They're the other statements that are what? Let's hear that quick definition of premises. Yes, reasons that support the conclusion. They're the reasons, they're the evidence that give backing to the conclusion. So if I say to you, Jones is the murderer, and you're like, okay, that's a claim. Why though? And I say, I don't know, I just look at him and think he's a murderer. No, I would have to say reasons. I would have to say, well, okay, we've obtained witnesses, and these witnesses have described the attacker in the way that Jones looks. And by the way, there's forensic evidence that we collected from the crime scene, fibers and stuff that match clothing that he is known to possess. So therefore, I conclude that Jones is the killer. And so arguments can be deployed toward any conclusion, whatever a person feels they would like to defend and persuade, but the premises have to be provided also in order to back that conclusion. Okay, so no problem, Brianna. I see you're here, so thanks for hanging in there and getting through the tough connection issues. Sometimes that can happen. All right, so like, let's say, if that were the conclusion of the argument, then at least one reason has to be given to support this. I don't know. I can think of multiple reasons why Cal State Fullerton is a great school. Of course, there's many universities all throughout the country, Ivy League institutions, places with, you know, big-time reputations. But suppose this is my viewpoint, that Cal State Fullerton's the best. Maybe I would cite, we have one of the most, or I shouldn't say we, because it could be stated in general, but CSUF has one of the most diverse campuses. Faculty are very friendly. So therefore, Cal State Fullerton is the best school. I mean, I'm just kind of freestyling here, thinking of what a person might say if they wanted to base this claim on something. And that's all an argument is. An argument is a person trying to present reasons in support of a claim that they think is true and that they try to convince other people to believe is true as well. So let me ask you this question, just to sort of check on your knowledge of what we're discussing here. If I tell you that, let's see. Let me think of a good one. That's something a little tricky. The Lakers are the best basketball team. Here's my question. That statement, is that an argument? Is the sentence, the Lakers are the best team in basketball, is that an argument? Yes or no? There's my question for you. You heard the example. Okay, not to worry, Jonathan. I see you're here. And you're good to go. But to all of us here, let me know. Okay, Dan, Violetta, not an argument. Yelka, you're saying yes. I'm afraid to let you know that, in fact, no, it's not an argument. So for all of us that are saying the correct answer, no, it's not an argument, why is it not an argument? Why does that not count as an argument, just saying that the Lakers are the best team in basketball? Not an argument, that's right. And let's now try to all comprehend why that doesn't constitute an argument by itself. What's missing? What's wrong for that to not count or qualify as an argument in the logical sense? Because it is only one sentence, correct? Now, Christopher, it's not because it's based on opinion, no. And Sky, same to you. It's not just because it's an opinion, because, by the way, we do argue for our opinions. I can argue for chocolate being the best ice cream. I can argue for whatever, like Kanye West is a bad musician. I can make arguments about my opinions, and anyone else can too. So the problem is that there are no premises. A single sentence by itself is not an argument because there's no evidence given behind it. So if a person thinks that the Lakers are the best team in basketball, they could make an argument for that claim, but they would have to give reasons. Now, I think there are pretty good reasons actually for this particular conclusion. And I could construct an argument. Maybe you could as well. For example, the Lakers are the current NBA champions. The Lakers have LeBron James, who's probably one of the greatest players of all time. They also have a great supporting roster, including Anthony Davis, who's one of the great current stars. And therefore, the Lakers are the best team in basketball. But in that case, I provided like 3 or 4 evidence statements in order to justify this claim. So just remember that. If a person boldly states something and they give no reasons, they haven't made an argument. If someone pops out and they're just like, you know, Biden lost the election or something, and then you ask them, why do you think that? And they say, I don't know. I don't have any reasons. That's not an argument. Now, people can make arguments for controversial claims, things that you don't agree with, and they still count as arguments, but they have to have reasons, okay? So anyway, Now, hopefully that's clear. Just wanted to clarify a couple of things as we're reviewing last lecture's topics. So what I said is what is a good critical thinker, what's a bad critical thinker, what's an argument, it's a set of two or more sentences where there's one conclusion and at least one premise, and then knowing that a single statement by itself, even if it's true, it's not an argument. If I say to you, Dr. Vulich is a professor, that's a fact, but that's not an argument. So arguments combine some evidence with a conclusion. Okay, now let's continue just a little more review, and then we'll add some new topics and notes to our meeting. So the point of me making arguments is to try and convince people that the conclusion is, what's that word? The whole point of the argument is to make a case that the conclusion is, let me know. Let's fill in the blank. We're trying to prove and show that the conclusion is what? With an argument, we seek to establish what about the conclusion? That is true. Very good, Gabriel and Dan and all the rest. Correct. So we want to make a case that this conclusion is true. Now we have to ask this new question then. What is the meaning of the word true? What does it mean for a sentence, a statement, to be a true one? And so that's the next question I have for your review this morning. What is a true statement? What does it mean for a sentence / statement to be a true one instead of being false? Truth, what is that? Let's see it, or hear it rather, or whatever. Look at it in the chat. What do you think? What does it mean when a sentence is true? When it's true, what's going on? Okay, Tiandra. When what a sentence says matches the facts of reality. Exactly, that's right. So some statements are true and some are just false. The true ones, though, correspond with what's facts, with what's real. So like truth is basically facts. I mean, it's a statement that matches with the facts, and false statements don't. So let me see if you can hit me with an example. Anything at all that's true. Write down a true sentence. Write down a sentence that does match what's real. Let me see if someone can, I mean, there's no shortage of options. There's just look around you or think about the world or think about history or anything. There's infinite examples of true sentences. So let's see just one of those infinite options. So Violetta, your name is Violetta. True, okay, you're speaking the truth. The earth is round. Also, that's true, Yelka, yes. Good examples all around. I am wearing glasses. Ah, but now it's false. Well, I'm just saying, you know, like it depends on what the facts are. So when I'm wearing the glasses, the statement's true. When I'm not, the same statement would be false. Joe Biden won the election. Yes, he is the president. You're in my philosophy class. Also correct. I'm wearing a watch. That's also true. So we could go on and on. We could say Declaration of Independence was signed in 1776. We could say Sacramento is the capital of California. The first man walked on the moon in 1969. The Lakers won the title last season, yes. You know, on and on and on. So these are all true statements. False statements, though, just don't mirror reality. If I told you that the Golden State Warriors won the championship last year, that's not true. That didn't happen. That's a false statement. If I say that I'm right now wearing, I don't know, a blazer, that's a false statement too. And the opposite of any true statement is also false. Like if you say right now I'm not wearing a watch, that's false because I am. So, okay, good, guys. Just kind of a little bit of further review. True statements are ones that match and mirror reality. So it's very important to recognize that good critical thinkers are better at determining what is true from what is false. And you want to be a good judge of facts. You want to be a good judge of what's true and false, because if not, then you end up having beliefs in your mind about what is true that are not correct. And in that case, you're not living in reality. You're living in a made-up version of reality that's only in your head. So we, as critical thinkers, are trying to be good at determining facts and distinguishing them from fiction. And we do that by expecting good reasons and arguments and evidence before we're willing to consider something as a truth. Now, a couple more questions, all right? What does the word belief mean? Because this is also built on the notion of truth. So to have a belief in a statement means what? If I believe some sentence, what does this say? Like, I believe that Cal State Fullerton is the best Cal State, or I believe that the earth is round, or I believe that Joe Biden legitimately won the election. Okay, good, Nicole. It means that I think the sentence is true, me. So you, the individual, can decide and choose what you think is true. And when you think that some statement is true, you believe it, okay? And people don't all have the same beliefs, but there's still just one world, and there's only one set of facts. Like, so, for example, take the statement that God exists. Many people believe this is true. That's people who are, members of all the world religions. And then there's like a small contingent of people who don't agree and think there is no God. I don't think this is really true. That would be atheists and stuff. So, I mean, just one example of a belief that divides people on two sides. I don't want to grant any credibility to this silly idea, but like at least Donald Trump himself seemed to think that he didn't lose the election. So take the statement that Biden won. I mean, all the elected officials responsible for administering the election say that they believe this, of course. But you have some people, perhaps self-interested or whatever, that don't agree and don't believe that. So what you believe is what you think is really the facts. And beliefs are subjective in that way because two people can have opposite beliefs as individuals. But when it comes to truth, that's objective. There can't be opposite truths, but there can be opposite beliefs. So sure, two people can disagree about whether the earth is round, but the planet itself can't be both round and not round. Okay, so we're trying to get to the facts. Critical thinkers, scientists, and others believe that that's possible. Okay, so just as I'm kind of walking us through last meeting's topics, we reviewed what is a good critical thinker, bad critical thinker, what's an argument, what is truth, what's belief. Now, I think the thing that we finished with last time was I was asking you guys what are some conclusion indicator words, okay? Like what are some words that might be spoken or written right before you present the conclusion of the argument? And you guys all, I think, had some good mentions of what some of those conclusion indicator words can be. So what do you think are some examples? Like, Cal State Fullerton has one of the most diverse campuses and the faculty are very friendly. Blank, CSUF is the best school. What word or words could occupy that blank space there? The thing you might say right before you state the conclusion. Okay, good. Therefore is very much one of them, yes. The word so is another possibility, or thus, or the word hence, correct. So, you can just try and read through this using any of those in the place of the conclusion word. So Fullerton has one of the most diverse campuses, faculty are very friendly, therefore it's the best school. Hence, it is the best school. So, Fullerton is the best school, thus, and so forth, right? So those are all conclusion indicator words. And I believe there were also some additional examples mentioned in the last meeting. You can review it and look in the text as well. So now I want to continue from there and have some additional stuff to say. So there are also what we call premise indicator words, okay, premise words. These are words that refer us to the fact that we're about to hear the premise of a logical argument, one of the evidence statements, one of the reasons. So maybe it'll take a moment, but we'll get there. What do you think could be premise indicator words, like that I might say before stating one of these premises? And this word kind of gives off the sense that here this is going to be a reason for something. So what do you think could be some premise words? It's not like therefore. It's rather, to indicate that this is something that will serve as a reason for something else. So, okay, very good, Gazi. Yes, so premise indicator words, one of them, and probably one of the most well-known, is the word because. And so, for example, because Cal State Fullerton has one of the most diverse campuses, and because the faculty are very friendly, therefore they're the best school. And so that would definitely work. Another one, and that's also very good, Gazi, is the word since. Okay. Since Fullerton has one of the most diverse campuses, and since the faculty are very friendly, therefore, Cal State Fullerton is the best school. Because, since, those are, I would say, the two most well-known, prevalent premise indicator words. But anybody else can maybe try and attempt another. There's a few others that are less common. You know, they're already in your vocabulary, guys. You really don't necessarily learn this for the first time today. It's just something that I kind of make you aware of because you've been using these words your whole life. You're going to explain to your parents like why you were gone for too late. And so you say, well, it's because of this, therefore I was late. Or since, you know, I didn't get a ride, right? What are other words like that that you might preface a reason with? Okay, good, Violetta. Due to the fact that, you could say that. Due to the fact that the person who was going to give me a ride flaked, therefore I arrived, you know, an hour late. But it wouldn't just be the one word due, though. I mean, that kind of wouldn't work, right? Due, Fullerton, you have to say due to the fact that, which is a little bit more complex. But anyway, that's not a problem. Okay, but come on, everybody. Due to the fact that, what is synonymous with saying due to the fact that, or because, or since? Instead of due to the fact that, you could also have said something quite similar with the same meaning. Who can think of that? Rack your brain. Go in there. Go deep. Tell me. Dredge it up out of you. What is another one? Okay, good. For the reason that, well, we've already seen because, Veronica, no problem, but you could say on account of, that's kind of a little awkward, but people sometimes say that. You could say given that. You could say granted that. So, I mean, these are all possibilities. You know, given that I couldn't get a ride, I was therefore late. You know, given that Cal State Fullerton has one of the most diverse campuses, and granted that the faculty are very friendly, it follows that they're the best at school. So anyway, just wanted to kind of reveal to you guys a range of possible premise indicator words. So now, whenever you hear these words, either in speech or you see them in writing, you'll know that you're hearing the statement of a logical argument. Whether it's a premise word or a conclusion word, those are clues to you that indicate which part of the argument is being stated and being focused on in a conversational exchange or in a piece of writing that you're looking at. Okay, guys, so one last thing I want to say about argument. Well, we're going to say actually a lot more about arguments, but one additional point before I start talking about deduction and induction. With arguments, there's always this little step where you get to the conclusion after you fully state all the premises. And that we call inference. Like we infer this conclusion, as they say, from the premises. Now, not every just random collection of statements counts as an argument. If there's no inference there, then it's just a set of descriptions or facts. So for example, let me ask you a quick question. Suppose that I'm telling you about what's in my bag, and I say, in my bag there are dry erase markers, there are student essays, and there are notebooks. Is that an argument? Those three sentences telling you what's in my bag. I've got markers, the bag has notebook, and the bag has essays. Is this an argument? You can let me know yes or no. What do you think? It's not just one sentence, it's more than one sentence, but is it an argument? Okay, good, Gabriel. No. Also Nicole and Ashley are saying no, and it is not an argument. Exactly. But now give me the reason. Why is it, according to what you now understand, that is not an argument? Why not? Why is it that if I tell you all the things in my bag, I'm not giving an argument? Well, Violetta, you say because it doesn't support the conclusion, but yeah, sort of. But in this case, there isn't even a conclusion. Let's see how any other student might put it. No evidence to support a conclusion, right? So, I mean, there's no inference. None of these statements are reasons for the other statements. It's not like I have the essays, therefore I have, markers. These are unrelated facts. So, like I could tell you the Eiffel Tower is in Paris, Joe Biden is the president, and it's February. But these three statements are not evidence for each other. So there's no role of inferring a conclusion from premises. So we have to notice the difference between like a real argument and just a random set of facts that don't bear any implication or inference towards each other. Okay? So hopefully that makes sense to you guys. Those are facts, but I'm not proving anything. That's a very good way to put it there, Alyssa. Nothing is given as proof of anything else. It's not like I'm saying I have these markers, therefore I have student essays, or I have markers and notebooks, and therefore I have student essays. Of course, any three of these facts can be independent of the other two, and so none are given as reasons for the others. In general, you can always tell that it's not an argument if there's no conclusion statement that follows from premises. Okay, so now, to continue from here, what we're going to do is we're going to expand on our knowledge of argumentation by learning about the two main types of argument and reasoning. So there are two major forms of argument and forms of reasoning in logic, and that is called deductive and inductive arguments. So some arguments are deductive arguments. Others are inductive arguments. And those are the two main divisions within the concept of argument, deduction and induction. So I'm going to start off by just trying to help you guys understand what is a deductive form of argument, what is deductive reasoning, and then after that we'll go over to the inductive side. So let's start off with what are deductive arguments. A good deductive argument is what is known as a deductively valid argument. So now this is a very major concept that we hold on to throughout the whole course, maybe hopefully throughout our whole lives. It's very basic to the very concept of logic itself. So a deductively valid argument is a good deductive argument. Deductively valid argument, all right? So what that means is, the definition of this is, if the premises of the argument are all true, if all the premises are true, then, in that case, the conclusion must also be true. Okay, so let me put this here. If all of the premises are true, then the conclusion must also be true. So that is the definition of a deductively valid argument. It's an argument where if all of the premises are true, then in that case the conclusion would have to be true as well. So let me give you some examples here on the board of arguments that have this feature. And since I'm going to have to clear the board, and I just wrote the definition up there, I'm going to add it to our live chat over here so that I can quickly erase it. So. Okay, so you can see there in the chat the typed up definition. Now I can clear this board space, and let me give you some easy examples. So this is kind of a classic textbook example of a deductively valid argument that is often used. So I'm just going to start with that, but then we're going to, spin off some other versions. Suppose that this is our two premises. So the first one says, all men are mortal. Okay. And the second premise beyond that says Socrates is a man. So what should be the conclusion? Can we deduce this conclusion from those premises? What do you deduce here? There's a valid conclusion that follows from these premises. And what should that be? All men are mortal. Socrates is a man. Therefore, what follows? What follows from these statements? Just waiting for you to put it in the chat. Okay, good. Therefore, well, no, not quite there, Nicole. It says Socrates is a man. That's the second premise already. So we can't just repeat the premise as the same conclusion. Therefore, Socrates is mortal. Good. So remember, what the conclusion is what you're trying to prove. These are the evidence statements, but the evidence can't be the same thing as what you're trying to prove. But that's okay. So anyway, mortal. Socrates is mortal. Hopefully this is obvious, right? Because look, let's demonstrate how this has to be true if these two things are true. I'll do that by means of the Venn diagram. Okay, so this displays how this has case if these two things are true. So let's just say here that this is the set of all men, and the men meaning human beings, obviously not just like literally males, but human beings. So HB here. This HB circle contains all human beings that ever have and ever will exist. So this is the set of all humans. Now, if all men are mortal, as premise 1 says, then how can I draw another circle labeled M for mortal in relationship to this? How would you tell me, how would you direct me to draw another circle to indicate that all human beings are mortal? So we're asking you what kind of visual should show up to make it apparent visually that all these individuals that are human beings are also mortal. Let's see if anyone can tell me how to construct that diagram. Let me know. One circle says HB. Okay, so can. Draw a larger circle around the HB circle. Very good, yes. That's this circle. And label it with what, perhaps? I need a label maybe for the bigger circle. What do you think it should say to give a clear indication of what it denotes? M. Okay, very good. And M stands for mortal. So all men are mortal because every single human being is a member of this larger set. Now, are there some non-humans that are mortal? Sure, like birds, bears, tigers, cats, dogs. They're on this region, which is exterior to the set of humans, but still within the case of those that are mortal. Now, it says that Socrates is a man. So I'm going to draw the little letter S somewhere on this diagram to indicate that he is one of the human beings. So where should I draw this little letter S? Where should Socrates appear within the diagram? If, in fact, the second premise is true, he should appear inside of the circle HB, because Socrates is one of the human beings. So does the conclusion follow from the premises? Yes, and you can just see that visually, because since he's a member of this category, and since this entire category is a subset of the things that are mortal, then clearly he is also within the larger region of M, and he's mortal as well. So, I mean, it doesn't really take the full, I hope, Venn diagram for you to compute and comprehend that, but that's definitely a valid argument because it has these features. And so knowing that that's the way valid arguments go, we can continue and just construct however many we like. So I want to focus on this with you guys for a minute before we move on to the next definition. Let's try and generate another valid argument. So like Fullerton is in California. California is in the United States. So what do you think would be the conclusion of this argument? Not too hard, I hope. Fullerton is part of California. It's within California. California, the larger part, the whole state, is itself a part of the country of the United States. So therefore, Fullerton is within the United States, yes. Now notice, right, that this follows the definition of validity, because if these two claims are true, then this has to be true. It's not like these could be true and somehow this could turn out to be false. That's illogical. That's logically contradictory. And once again, we can showcase this if we really wanted to with diagrams. Here's Fullerton, F. Here's California, because it's a part of it. It's not bigger than it. California is like larger than Fullerton. It contains it. And California is contained within the United States. So obviously, Fullerton is within the set of concentric circles. It fits and falls within the larger domain of the country. So that's another valid argument. Let me just move on to another possibility, because I kind of want to hit you with like 3 and 4 different examples so that it kind of sinks in, right? Just one sometimes is not quite enough. And you can never have too much experience like thinking about these definitions and ideas, because for whatever reason, having taught this so many times, I've noticed that initial kind of awareness of validity and deduction is sometimes a bit confusing to an introductory student. So I want to make it an easy path for you to walk to get to these definitions and concepts. Let's try this. John is taller than Bill. Bill is taller than Mary. Is there any conclusion that you can draw from those premises? John taller than Bill, premise 1. Premise 2, Bill taller than Mary. So what can be concluded that has to be true on the basis of those two statements? Something logically follows from them. That John is taller than Mary. Yes, correct. Okay, now hopefully that's also very clear to everybody that this must be true. It must be true if these two statements are true. There's no room for this to be false if, in fact, these two claims are correct. Because, like, for example, if this is John, and, he's taller than Bill, so let's say this is Bill's height, and Bill, we have said, is taller than Mary, then obviously John, being taller than this man, who's himself taller than Mary, has to also additionally be taller than Mary. It could not be that John is taller than Bill, Bill is taller than Mary, but somehow Mary is taller than John. That would just violate fundamental transitivity of the taller than relation. So it's also the same with like other relations that can be quantified in greater than or less than terms. I'm older than you, and you're older than like a newborn that was born yesterday. So I'm older than the newborn because of that same transitivity of the taller than or older than or whatever than relationship, okay? Okay, so when we reason deductively, we kind of derive a conclusion that must be true if a certain set of premises are true. Let's see, just thinking if I have other random examples. Well, okay, here, I'll just do one more, okay? Just to multiply the examples again. One easy way to generate deductively valid arguments is to start the argument with a premise that mentions a whole category and either claims all of them have a certain attribute or none of them do. So we already gave an example like all men are mortal, Socrates is a man, therefore he is mortal. We could substitute for that format any number of different possible examples. Like if I say all dogs are mammals and a terrier is a kind of dog, what would be the conclusion of that valid argument? You heard, I don't want to write it for the moment, but if you can follow me speaking, all dogs are mammals, premise 1. Okay, next premise, the terrier is a mammal, is a dog. All dogs are mammals, terriers are dogs. So what follows from those? Hopefully I was clear enough. All dogs are mammals, all of them. Terriers are dogs. And so, therefore, thus, hence, you can just tell me, Terriers are mammals. Very good, Alyssa. Yeah. So notice what I did there. Instead of saying like all men are mortal, I made another all statement, which is also correct, that all dogs are mammals, and it's true that they are. So we can follow the logic through to the conclusion if we have a combination of like all A's are B's, and then some X is a member of the class A. It would thus follow that that individual, whatever they are, labeled by the variable, is also a member of the second class, in this case, mammal. Now, yeah, so how about this one? And then I'll move to the next definition, okay? So I'm going to give one more quick example. No man has been to Mars. No man has been to Mars. Who can give me the name of any human being that's alive right now? That should be pretty easy to do. Just throw out the name of a real life human being that we all know. Just to help me write this argument. Richard, like me? Okay, well, that's one name though. I mean, do you mean Richard Woolwich? If so, you got to say that because there's a lot of Richards. There's Richard, I don't know, Little Richard and Richard Nixon. Let's go with Elon Musk. That's good because it's a more public figure than just me. So even though I got to say Ghazi, it's a funny example though because of all the people who might go to the Mars. You know, I wouldn't put it past him to be one of the first to attempt it. But anyway, let's just use your Elon though. I could have said, you know, Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant, rest in peace, not him. But I could have named, you know, any number of other like well-known people. But yeah, let's just say Elon Musk is a man. That's true. So would you tell me what's the conclusion of this argument? No man's been to the moon. Or sorry, people have been to the moon. But no man has been to Mars. Elon Musk is a man. And so what could follow from those two statements? The conclusion to derive. No human anyway has been to Mars, and Elon Musk is one of those human beings. So what's our conclusion? I'm waiting for it. Okay, good. So he has not been to Mars. Exactly. Yes, good Nicole, good Gabriel, that's right. And Fernando as well. Elon Musk has not been to Mars. And this is a valid argument as well, because again, if these two premises are true, then this follows from them, just like a matter of deduction. I think I mentioned before that with arguments, the way they're written visually, keep that in mind, standard form. You have to have the conclusion at the bottom. The premises are listed above, one by one in a list. When you have these kind of arguments here, deductively valid argument, we can also demonstrate that this is valid by means of a diagram. So let one circle represent all the human beings. And then another circle represents things that have been to Mars. You know, things, whatever they are, if anything has been to Mars. Let's say that's this circle. Notice no human being has been to Mars. That's why the two circles are disjoint. If there was a little overlapping section, then that would have been the slight number of human beings that have also been to Mars. But as we have it right now, no human being has ever set foot on Mars. So now here's Elon Musk. He's one member of this category. But since the whole set is disjoint from this other class, he doesn't fall within it since there's no overlapping section. So he hasn't been to Mars either. No woman has been president of the United States. Oprah Winfrey is a woman, and so she has not been president of the United States. So I'm just trying to show you that a deductively valid argument, an easy way to generate examples can be to start off with a no statement or an all statement, and then follow the logic through to whatever the valid conclusion would be. Okay, so next up, now that I think we're getting a better handle on what deductive validity is, oh yeah, and I was going to mention this. With these arguments, you see the conclusion at bottom. It reminds us almost of the visual you get from like elementary mathematics classes and lessons from elementary school. You have the sum below, and you have the factors above that lead to this result. And so in logic, we don't deal with numbers per se, but there's a similarity of quantitative reasoning. You draw a conclusion from a set of information that leads to it. So anyways, let's now talk about another concept within the whole realm of deduction. Okay, so we spoke on what is validity, but we also have to be now clear on what it means for an argument to be sound. Okay, so soundness is yet another concept that we must know about. So here is what it is for an argument to be sound. Soundness. So when an argument is sound, that just means this. It means that it is a deductively valid argument, first of all, but on top of that, it has something extra, which is that the premises are all actually true. Okay, so it is a deductively valid argument with all true premises. Okay, so valid, but beyond that, the premises are all true. So now, what we have to know then is that it's possible for there to be a valid argument that's not sound. It's possible to have a valid argument where the premises are not all actually true to the real world. In that case, it's still valid because if the premises were true, like hypothetically speaking, then in that case, the conclusion would have to be true as well. So there's a difference between a valid argument that is not sound and a valid argument that is sound. Let me try and expose that by means of examples here. Okay, so let's look at this weird argument. All humans are 20 feet tall. Okay? Now plug in the name of some human being. Once again, can I ask you to give me a suggestion? Who could be the real life human being to put in my example here, in premise 2? All human beings are 20 feet tall. That's the first premise. Second premise, Tom Holland. You want to go with that? Okay, Nicole? A little bit off. Why am I not remembering Tom Holland? Is it like a famous actor or something, or is it a musician, or is it an athlete? Just give me the reference one time. Michael Jordan, definitely know him. But I like your suggestion. I just kind of want to be on the same page with you. It's just escaping my memory for the moment. Spider-Man, okay. Spider-Man, thank you guys. Okay, well, he's from Spider-Man Homecoming, but he's a fictional character. I'd rather use a real person's name, or is it the actor's name? Yeah, so it's not the real person's name. Let's go with the real person. So like Michael Jordan, okay? Okay, so with attention to this argument here, what's the conclusion that follows from the two premises? Okay, sorry, thanks, Nicole. He's the real actor. Well, I'll make sure to use the next example with Tom Holland. Yeah, my bad. But, you know, names sometimes escape me. I'm so busy all the time. Yeah, we will definitely get Tom in the next one. So not to worry, he's going to get accounted for. But tell me the conclusion, though. All humans are 20 feet tall. Michael Jordan is a human. And so what's our conclusion in this case? That Michael Jordan is 20 feet tall. Good. Okay, so here, look at this argument, and I got some questions. First question, is this argument valid? Is it a valid argument that you're looking at here on the board? All humans are 20 feet tall. Michael Jordan is a human, and so therefore Michael Jordan is 20 feet tall. Valid? Yes or no? Gazi says no. Violetta says yes. I'm seeing a mixture of responses. So I guess I have to break the tie and really inform you guys. It is valid. It's valid. 100% it's valid. Yes, it's a valid argument. Because, okay, if if these premises are true. If they were, like, imagine a scenario where they're true. Like, think of like a science fictional possible world where those two things are true. If they are true, then this just follows from them deductively. This statement is a logical consequence of these two statements. Gabriel, question marks all around. You heard me? It's a valid argument because this conclusion follows from the premises. And I can show you again in a diagram if you really want. Let this be all the human beings. Let this be all the things that are 20 feet tall. Okay, the first premise says all human beings are 20 feet tall. So that's what this diagram shows. Every human being is a member of this set. The second premise says Michael Jordan is a human. And that means that he falls within this circle. So falling within this set, which falls itself completely within the set of 20-foot tall things, Michael Jordan is 20 feet tall. That is the logical conclusion. But to those feeling like it's weird or whatever, Ghazi, I think you have the right intuition, but let me ask the class. It's valid, but what is it not? It's valid, but not what? And then you can tell me that answer, and then we'll get into the reasons why. It's a valid argument, sure enough. But the thing that it has wrong with it is that it is not, what's the other terminology? Well, listen, it wouldn't be to say it's not true because you have to be more precise. Premises individually and conclusions are either true or false. Arguments overall are either valid, sound, unsound, invalid. So it's not sound, correct. The argument is valid, but it's not sound because if it was sound, it would have to be valid, but also on top of that, all the premises would have to be true. Now, why is it that this argument is not sound? It's not sound because of which premise? Let's be specific about the false premise. Which premise is false? There's numbers here. So tell me, if it's sound, all the premises have to be like real, like facts and reality. In this case, that's not so. Which of the premises is false? Yeah, so it's the first premise that's false. It says that all human beings are 20 feet tall, which is certainly false. I mean, look at you, look at me, look around you. There's never been a human being that's even taller than 8'11". So it's a clearly false statement here. It's not the case that all humans are 20 feet tall. No, they're not. But if they were, and if Michael Jordan is a human being, then under those conditions, this conclusion must follow from them. So just know that we can have valid arguments that are not sound if the format is still correct. If the form of the argument is that a conclusion follows from the premises, then it's valid. But it's only sound when the premises are actually true. Okay? So like, for example, here, all human beings have two biological parents. Okay, guys, Tom Holland, Spider-Man, is a human being. Not Spider-Man, the actor. Okay, all right. What's the conclusion of this one? All human beings have two biological parents. Tom Holland is a human being. Therefore, it follows that what? What's our conclusion of this case? Just waiting for it. Okay, yeah. So Tom Holland has two biological parents. That's the derived conclusion that follows from these premises. Now, tell me about the status of this argument in terms of our terminology that we're all learning. Is it valid? Is it an argument where the conclusion must be true if the premises are? First question for you, is it valid? Good, yes, Brianna and Fernando and the rest, it's valid. It's a valid argument. The logic of the argument is such that this conclusion just flows from the premises. It follows from the premises. It has to be true if the premises are. Now, is this argument sound? The previous example, which talked about all people being 20 feet tall, that one was not sound. But is this one sound? Does it have that extra feature that makes it not just valid, but also on top of that sound? Fernando, are you confused? It is definitely sound. It's sound, and why? To those that are answering the question, yes. It's a sound argument. Why? It's valid and it's sound. Yes, Gabriel. But let me just get the real reason, though, why it is sound. That's the terminology. What's the backstory of why it's, not to worry, Fernando, but yeah, just let's be on the same page. It's sound. Why, though? Explain. What makes it sound? Because the premises are true. Because in this case, the premises are true to reality. Every human being does have two biological parents. And Tom Holland is a human being. So these statements imply this conclusion. But by the way, these are factually true statements. So like if I say that no human being has walked on Mars, and Elon Musk is a human being, so he has not walked on Mars, that's valid, and it is also sound, because it contains premises that are both true, and the conclusion is a deductive result of the premises. So now, sometimes we have valid arguments that are not sound. Let me just try to make sure that that's sinking in. All men have purple skin. Donald Trump is a man. What's the valid conclusion of this deductive argument? All men have purple skin. Donald Trump is a man, and therefore, thus, so, what's the conclusion in this one? I'll write it up there. Just wait for it. I'll see it in the chat in just a second. All men have purple skin. Donald Trump is a man, and therefore, what's our conclusion here? See, just trying to make sure this is sinking in. Therefore, Donald Trump has purple skin. Yes. And so I'm just going to double check on your knowledge of what we're learning for a moment. What's the status of this argument? Status of this one? Yeah. Yeah, Monica, thank you. A little humor goes a long way sometimes. But anyways, it's just an example. What is the status, terminology-wise, of our argument here on the board? It's a what kind of argument? Cam, that's funny. Yeah, purple. But it's valid and it is not sound. Veronica, no, it is not invalid. Come on. It's valid because this conclusion follows from these premises. Is that clear? This conclusion is based on these two premises. Let it be that all men have purple skin. Men, purple skin things. All men have purple skin. Donald Trump is one of the men. So he falls then within the larger circle. So it's valid, but it's not sound. It's not sound because of what premise? Which premise makes it not a sound argument? Yes, correct. Premise number one, because premise one says that all men have purple skin. Is that true? No. It's 100% not true. But if it were true, so when you evaluate whether an argument is valid or invalid, you have to simply consider this. You have to think of the hypothetical scenario in which the premises are true. If they are not actually true, you have to envision a case where they're true. And then you have to ask this separate question. In that possible world where the premises are true, does this conclusion have to be true or not? And if it is a logical consequence of the statements above, then it's a valid argument. So validity is not so much about assessing what's factually true. It's just about evaluating whether the conclusion follows from the premises. Soundness, though, involves a judgment as to whether each premise is really true in reality. So soundness has to do with the truth of the premises. Validity just has to do with the logical connection of the conclusion to the premise statements, okay? So valid arguments can sometimes sound weird and disconnected from reality when they are unsound. Like if I tell you that everyone is 100 years old and you're a person, so you're 100 years old, that would be a valid argument, but it's just unsound because it's based on a false premise, premise one, okay? Now, in a perfect world, I guess, ideally all our arguments would be both valid and sound. But the thing is, we're not omniscient gods, meaning like we're not all-knowing. So sometimes the best we can do is present an argument which is valid, where the conclusion follows from the premises, and we have to leave it to people to debate whether our premises, our evidence, is true or not. Like sometimes people make valid arguments based on false assumptions. Like someone could say, the voting machines were all rigged. When voting machines are rigged, we don't get an accurate count of the votes. Therefore, the 2020 election was fraudulent. That could be seen as a valid argument, but it's based on false premises because the first premise, which says that the machines were rigged, is not true, and that's been demonstrated in court many, many times. But if the person assumes that were true, then they could follow the logic through to their conclusion, okay? So soundness is when we make sure that the premises are really true. But of course, sometimes we are not aware of what the truth is, and that's when we debate whether the argument is sound or unsound, okay? Cool. So now I want to, at least with a few minutes that we have left, and we'll kind of segue into this and pick up on Thursday again when we come back, but I wanted to tell you a little bit about the other side of argument, and that's induction, right? So I started our discussion here with the idea that there are two main forms of argument and reasoning. There's deductive and inductive. And so I spent this time now just talking to you about the deductive side. What is a deductively valid argument? And what is it when it's sound? But what is induction? That's different. And so now let's understand what is a good inductive argument. A good inductive argument is not termed valid. The terminology instead is strong. So inductively strong arguments. What are those? Okay, so now the definition that we're going to see is that an inductively strong argument is one where if all the premises are true, then in that case, the conclusion is not that it has to be true, but rather that it's probably true. Okay, so if all the premises are true, then the conclusion is highly likely, but not absolutely guaranteed. So that's the difference. With deduction, the conclusion has to be true if the premises are. With induction, the conclusion is probably true if the premises are, but it can't be absolutely, without any possible exceptions guaranteed. Okay, so if all of the premises are true, then in that case, the conclusion is highly likely to be true. Inductively strong argument. If all the premises are true, then the conclusion is very likely to be true. So here's like one random example that's often given as a textbook example of an inductively strong argument. But as we've seen before, we're just going to start with the one example, and then we're going to multiply into more and more additional cases. So look at this argument, which I'm just going to leave with one premise. And the premise says that the sun has come up every morning. The sun rises in the morning. It's come up every morning for billions of years, for all of recorded history and behind. So the sun has come up every morning for billions of years. The sun's come up every morning for billions of years. So what do you think would be a safe conclusion to base off of that premise? If the sun has come up every morning for billions of years, then one could conclude with pretty good reason and likelihood that what? What do you guess would be what I'm driving at here for the conclusion of the argument on the board? Since the sun has come up every morning for billions of years, therefore, what could be concluded? That the sun will come up in the morning tomorrow. That it'll come up tomorrow. Very good, yes. Therefore, the sun will come up tomorrow. Okay, now look at that conclusion. It says the sun will come up tomorrow. And why does it say that that's going to happen? Because it cites as evidence the track record that goes way back into the past for so long. Now, do you think the sun will come up tomorrow? I mean, I hope you do. It'd be kind of depressing if you thought this is the last cycle and after this, no more sun is going to come up. So certainly I believe that the sun will come up tomorrow, and so do you. And it's not like you're just guessing, like maybe, I don't know, I have no reason to believe that. You have a reason, and the reason is the pattern that's always held over the past. But can we guarantee 100% with total certainty that it will come up tomorrow? I mean, it's not tomorrow yet. That's the future. And for all we know, maybe, you know, a weird event in space, like a giant asteroid would collide with the sun and knock it into oblivion, or maybe we would get thrown off of our orbit cycle around the sun by some other kind of violent event in space colliding with objects or whatever. So, or maybe the sun will spontaneously start to explode in supernova, at which point there won't be a sun to come up at all. Now, we don't think these things are likely to happen because they haven't happened over such a long span of time. But we're not absolutely 100% certain either. So this is an inductively strong argument. The conclusion is quite probable based on those premises. But unlike with deduction, where there's no room for the conclusion to be false without the premises being true, in the case here, it's at least theoretically possible for the conclusion to be false, even if all the premises are true. So with inductive arguments, typically the premises provide some kind of information about how a pattern has been holding for a certain period of time. And then the assumption is just that it will continue to hold in the next observed case. So I started with the example of the sun, because that's very extensive, going back billions of years. But I could give you more or less inductively strong arguments along the same lines. Say, here's another case. Me, Dr. Vulich, I'm now in my 30s, okay, and I've never broken a bone. That's just never happened to me. So I could say this: in 30 plus years, Dr. Vulich has never broken a bone. So therefore, Dr. Vulich will not break a bone today. Now, is that probably true, that conclusion? Yes. And what's it based on? It's based on my solid track record of never having such injuries. So if I've never had an injury like that in my whole life of over 30 years, it seems pretty likely, doesn't it, that it's not going to be the first time that happens to me today. But we cannot absolutely guarantee that, you know, anything can happen. I could get into an accident, something weird could happen, and maybe today I'll take on such an injury. But we have to base our beliefs on something. And when we have these inductively based beliefs that are based on inductive reasoning, we draw the conclusion from our experiences and observations of the past. This gives us something probable to assume, but it's not absolutely guaranteed. Okay, so with induction, we have a probable conclusion rather than a certain conclusion. But notice that difference. If I say, like, I'm older than you and you're older than your little brother, therefore I'm older than your little brother, that conclusion has to be true if the premises are true. There's no way that I can be older than you older than your little brother, but I'm not older than your little brother. See, that's impossible. But in the case here, the premises could be true, and yet the conclusion could turn out to be false. It could be true that I've never broken a bone, and then nonetheless false that I won't break one today. So inductive arguments leave some space for the conclusion to turn out false, but nonetheless it seems very likely that it will be true given the premises. You've broken over 6 bones, so Gabriel, you couldn't use this argument. You'd have to give something else, I guess, related to your past experiences. Say, for example, that every time I get on the 405 freeway at lunch at 12 noon, there's heavy traffic going north. And tomorrow I'm going to take a trip on the 405 at 12. So there will be traffic tomorrow. That could be my assumption. And I could say that in 10 years of driving, I've always seen that, and therefore it'll happen tomorrow. But who knows? Maybe something will happen that will clear traffic on that day, and it won't be the expected pattern. Or I could say I've never had an at-fault car accident in like 10 years of driving history, so I won't get into an accident today. Maybe you will, but it's probable that you won't because of the past track record. So with inductive strength, the argument can be more or less strong. It's a matter of degree. The thing about the sun, with such a huge track record in the past, is very strong. The one about me not breaking a bone, maybe that's a little less strong because we're only drawing on like 30 plus years of experience rather than billions of years. Yeah, and you know, Google Maps and technology that we have is able to compute based on an algorithm and data that it collects from GPS satellites, what the expected travel time would be. But even those things are sometimes subject to error. So inductive reasoning, we have to rely on it. If we didn't have an expectation of what would happen based on our past experiences, then we would always be at a loss. We'd be exiting the house like, what's going to happen today? I don't know. So we use our experiences to make judgments about the likely outcomes in the future. And then when we do that, that's called induction. Okay, guys, so I feel that we've had another good productive meeting. For now, we're going to close, but for the Thursday meeting, do take a look at the textbook because now you're going to notice that there's some pages listed for you to read prior to the meeting. And then we're just going to continue to work with the idea of argument on Thursday. I'm going to help you understand what are some different types of deductively valid argument. And then I'm also going to assign your first homework assignment on Thursday. So stay tuned for that. You'll have a good amount of time to finish it. I don't think it's that hard, but I'll talk to you and we'll all be clear about it after Thursday. So thanks again, everyone. I'm going to let you go. Feel free to say goodbye or hit the like button or anything else. But for now, have a great day. And yeah, take it easy. And I'll see you guys back here in around 48 hours then. Okay. Bye-bye, everyone. Thanks. Have a good one.